Interesting indeed.
Looks smooth.
Hold up.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, here with another live stream. Every Monday, 8 p.m. Central Time. You can bank on it. We're going to be right here talking college football. And today, making a slight exception, we're going to be talking a little bit of the Super Bowl. We're going to be doing a little Super Bowl recap after the events that transpired last night. And already from the chat, I can see some people were surprised by that.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to
We're going to run through the chat a little bit today, and then we're going to open up the phone lines. We want to get your calls and your takes, whether it's on the game from yesterday or whether it's from National Signing Day, whether it is for anything coming up with this 2020 college football season. We want to hear from you. So, Scott, my man, how's it going? Scott, big-time Baylor fan. Last week we called him the walking and talking Baylor encyclopedia. And reminding everybody to hit that like button. Again, you see a lot of YouTubers out there. It's crazy that one click of a button on the thumbs up. It's crazy what that can do for us as content creators and us as guys that produce videos for anybody. So hit that like button. Help us out with this live stream. Help us out to continue to spread the word of the Gridiron Expert. Cyclone Mitch, what's going on? Glad you're able to make it today. Hope the commentating went well last week. Monster Jam in Texas. Dontron Plays. Robert Sharpton. No, we reached out to you on Twitter. Glad to see you. Keto. Glad to see you. UW. Washington's not going anywhere in basketball. Crazy they were somewhat relevant a few years ago with Markelle Fultz. Ended up being the #1 overall pick. College Football Frenzy. Happy to see Baylor get his 7th. And then, of course, everybody else kind of down the chat here. And like I said, we're going to try to hit on some of that tonight. And we are certainly going to be touching on a lot of that on your calls as well. Before we open up the phone lines, guys, before we really get started on hearing what you guys have to say, I do want to touch briefly on the Super Bowl. I want to kind of share my thoughts, and then you guys can kind of bounce off of that if we decide to talk about it. The Buccaneers, Tom Brady, and College Football Frenzy just said it, the Buccaneers won their first Super Bowl since 2002, and I think that was, for most teams, that would be a big deal. But what was the bigger deal was the fact that Tom Brady just won his 7th Super Bowl title. And that's the bigger deal here. And it's amazing that we're focusing more on an individual player than we are as a team. And I will say, first and foremost, what happened last night was a team effort. It drives me nuts when I'm looking on Twitter, when I'm looking on Instagram, any sort of other social media, where people are still trying to take this victory away from Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. First off, let's give a lot of credit to that defense. That Buccaneers defense was unreal. If you had told me last week, 2 weeks ago, when we found out the Chiefs were going, the Chiefs team where Tyreek Hill had 269 yards receiving the first time they played the Bucs, if you had told me, hey, they're only going to score 9 points in the Super Bowl, I would have thought you were crazy. There's no way that the Chiefs only scored 9 points. They don't even find the end zone in the Super Bowl. Not happening. It did. That Buccaneers defense is elite. 100%. You look at Tom Brady and what the offense did. As efficient as they could be, we kind of focused heavily on that balance in our Super Bowl prediction. We said if the Buccaneers want to have any chance to win this game, they have got to find a way to remain balanced. We know Tom Brady's going to put up the decent numbers through the air, but can Leonard Fournette, can Ronald Jones, can those guys come through on the ground? And they did. And they did in a big way. Say what you want about the referees. Say what you want about the Chiefs having a banged-up offensive line. To me, that doesn't take away from the fact that the Chiefs just simply were not the better team yesterday. The refs did not play that big a role. The majority of the penalties I saw that were called on Kansas City were legitimate. They were legitimate holding calls. They were legitimate pass interference calls. And again, they lost by 22. They lost by 22 points. You could make an argument that those changed the outcome of the game if it was a one-possession game. It wasn't. It was a complete and utter blowout. Domination by Tampa Bay on their home field. You cannot make excuses if you're a Kansas City fan. You cannot make excuses if you're a Tom Brady hater. You just need to sit there and really appreciate what we're seeing, because you're never going to see this type of stuff again. You're never going to see a man at 43 years old run through some of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, go up against a guy that is, he's 18 years older than Patrick Mahomes, go up against whom people are calling him the next GOAT, the next Tom Brady, go up against him and annihilate him. You're never going to see that again. You're never going to see a guy make 10 Super Bowls win 7 of them, and he's still not done. Has a chance to maybe make 11, win 8. Who knows what could happen next year or the year after. Tom Brady saying he's going to play maybe till he's 45 years old. You cannot make this stuff up, and you can't hate it because, yeah, it might get redundant. You might have suffered if you're a guy that's constantly played Brady, but again, this is historic, and it's never going to happen again. We're living in an era where we're very, very lucky to be in. We're very, very lucky to be in this era, getting to see some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time play football and continue to do it at a very successful rate. Because I promise you, we're going to miss it when it's gone. I can promise you for that. So that was kind of a brief overview of the Super Bowl, guys. Again, we'll talk more on it here in a little bit. But again, I really wanted to hone in on the point where the game wasn't rigged. The game wasn't, handed to Brady. It was nothing of that. The Buccaneers showed that they were legit. And they showed that for the past month now, winning all 3 playoff games on the road, again, including at New Orleans, at Green Bay, against Drew Brees, against Aaron Rodgers. And I can promise you this one last thing. Tampa Bay would not have been in the Super Bowl yesterday without Tom Brady. So if you want to say it was because of their defense is the reason they won, if you want to say it's because they finally had a semi-decent quarterback, that wasn't Jameis Winston, that's fine. But if it had been any other quarterback, they would not have been in the Super Bowl on Sunday. I can promise you that. I want to hit the last few things here, and then we're going to open up the phone lines here. Zane Reese, yes, UCF has hired Terry Mahajan. Not going to try to pronounce his last name. Yes. I'm actually here at Arkansas State, and Terry Mahajan was our athletic director. Now he's off to Central Florida, and that's a good spot for him. It's a very good spot for him. I think the American Athletics a step up. Central Florida has solidified themselves as a power in the American Athletic Conference and a team that's going to consistently contend for that New Year's Six bowl game. Mahajan's done very well here at Arkansas State in terms of, or at least with their football program. He hasn't really hit home run hires when it's come to the basketball program, but football-wise, he's done very well. We know UCF's going through some changes within their football program right now, so I certainly wish him all the best down in Orlando. Monster Jam in Texas. Okay, good to know. Spybot117. I remember that name, so good to know that it's what you changed it for. And let's see what else right here. Final thing here before we open up the lines. Ben Jackson, how will Nebraska overcome transfers, and will Scott Frost be on the hot seat at the end of the year? They're going to overcome their transfers the way they have been the last few years. As I would say for any team, it's next man up mentality. Biggest thing for me is going to have to find some sort of consistency on the offensive side of the ball, and I think they're getting there with that. But yes, if Scott Frost does not get Nebraska to a bowl game, he is on the hot seat. I would say he's on the hot seat right now. And Michigan State, number 1 fan. What do I think of Mel Tucker in year 2? Michigan State had their highs and lows, in their valleys, in their peaks, all throughout 2020. You beat Michigan. They beat Northwestern, who at the time was number 8. They were very inconsistent. And I think you're going to see a little bit more consistency from Michigan State. I'm not saying they're going to be elite in the Big Ten East, but they will take a step up in year 2. Cyclone Mitch, what's going on, my man? We're about to open up the lines, and I hope to hear from you. And Scott, what's my advice for any coaches trying to have spring football this year? I honestly, Scott, and you and I have talked about this with the pandemic. It's going to be proceed with caution. We've gone through an entire football season, both collegiate and pro, through COVID. We survived it. We've done it. We've showed that we can do it. But COVID's not going anywhere. We've still got to be careful. We've still got to be able to take the precautions, because how we act now in the spring and summer will determine again if we have a season in 2021. I can't imagine we wouldn't, but if things escalate the way some people are projecting, you never know what can happen. So proceed with caution. If I'm spring coaches, I'm being very cautious and weary of what is to come within our players, and obviously with the whole pandemic. So that would be the biggest thing. I know that's not a football strategy, but we are dealing with otherworldly things right now. All right, let's go ahead and open up the phone lines. Our man Josh, who has, as Mitch has said, loves the setup. Josh put together this entire setup for us, and we love it. Certainly love switching things up here on the set. And the way we're going to do calls tonight, guys, is we're going to get your call. We're going to put you on speaker. We're going to hear you. We'll probably go for about 3-4 minutes, and then we're going to hang up and we're going to move on. And that's nothing personal. We do want to talk to you and get your thoughts, but we're going to try to get through as many calls as we can. And remember, this is only about an hour-long show. It's about 9:15. So we're going to just we're going to go rapid pace here on the phone calls. And, of course, we'll still make sure to be hitting you guys in the chat. So let's go ahead and get that number on there. It's going to be scrolling across the bottom, kind of like our little ESPN ticker. And we're getting our first call right now from Tallahassee, Florida. All right, you are on the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have with us?
Dontron.
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good, Dontron. It's good to see you, man. I know we were talking Florida football the other day, so what's on your mind?
All right, so with the loss of Trask, Pitts, and Tony and Grimes, and with the addition of Arik Gilbert, Emory Jones, and the 5-star running back from Clemson, along with the addition of the number 1 cornerback and the number 3 safety in the country, I think that's what the stats are. I might have them wrong. But who do you think will control the East and the West this season? I know I'm biased, but I feel Florida has at least 2 more years of winning in Jacksonville.
Yeah, a great point, and a great analysis, really, with all the additions and changes going on in Tallahassee. Not Tallahassee, Gainesville. My mistake. Your number's from Tallahassee. You know, right now the heavy favorite in the East is Georgia, and I think it's because of the JT Daniels hype and obviously the amount of starters that Georgia has coming back from the team that won the Peach Bowl this last year. Florida is going to give them a run for their money. I think Alabama's a shoe-in for the West. I don't see any team in the West right now that's going to contend. Ole Miss could give them a fight just because of that offense, but they're not defensively ready enough to stop Alabama. I don't think A&M's there yet. LSU is dealing with some scandals right now. Who knows what could happen with them? They're dealing with a bunch of transfers, and obviously we don't know if they're going to bounce back from that mediocre season this year. So the West is Alabama's to lose. The East is, again, the most intriguing division in the SEC. And my biggest fear, Dontron, is Arik Gilbert. That's great. The defense should be solid, hopefully, especially in the secondary. Is Emory Jones going to be the guy for the job at quarterback? Can he be the guy that leads the Gators to an SEC East title? And I have my doubts about him. You know, he's certainly more dual threat than Kyle Trask, but is he going to be the guy to take control of Georgia? So right now, my early inclination is Georgia to win the East, but certainly it's no shoe-in. It's no shoe-in like it's been in recent years.
All right. Yeah, that's really all I needed to ask. But, yeah, I think Georgia does have, like, the edge right now, saying with JT Daniels being back and losing a bunch of starters at Florida. So, yeah, thanks.
Hey, you got it, man. I appreciate it. And, again, we'll have more on Florida certainly in the following weeks and down in the summer as well. We'll be hammering that SEC coverage all year long.
All right.
All right, Dontron, appreciate you, man. Have a great night.
You too.
All right, that was Dontron all the way down from Florida, big-time Gator fan. And we talked Florida football just a few weeks ago with Dontron, and brings up an interesting question. Who is going to win the SEC East? Just like this last year, that's the most intriguing division in the SEC. You know, you could have made a case for the West, and for years now, and I still would agree that the West is the most difficult division in college football. But the East is the one that's the most up for grabs. And isn't that funny how the West is the most difficult, yet every year in and year out, we usually know who's going to win that division. And look, guys, I mean, who is going to challenge Alabama on the West? Nobody. Arkansas won't. Mississippi State won't. Auburn will not this year in the midst of a coaching change with Brian Harsin. As long as Bo Nix is their quarterback, they're not going to challenge for an SEC title, in my opinion. I know they beat Alabama with Nix a few years ago. Not going to happen anytime soon. So Auburn, no. Arkansas, no. Mississippi State, no. Ole Miss, like we mentioned, could put up the numbers. Can their defense step up and get the job done? I'm not sure, and I believe Ole Miss is traveling to Tuscaloosa this fall, so that's obviously a bad deal if, of course, we have fans as well. A&M and LSU are probably the only contenders for Alabama in the West, and again, Alabama manhandled both of them in 2020. A&M will be dealing with quarterback changes. Kellen Mond is out. LSU, again, in the midst of some potential scandals there. They had their bowl ban. There might be more to that. Arik Gilbert gone. Who are they going to decide to stick with at quarterback? Will it be Max Johnson? Will the defense step up now that Bo Pelini is gone? A lot of questions there for LSU where they will bounce back, but can they beat Alabama? And again, that game going to be played in Tuscaloosa. So Alabama, to me, seems like a shoe-in for the West. The East is where things get interesting between Florida and Georgia again. The division will be decided in Jacksonville. World's largest outdoor cocktail party, per usual. And again, I think I think for at least this year, maybe the next year, you're not going to be in a position to see a blowout. I think we're going to see two teams that are relatively even between Georgia and Florida, and what is a almost conference championship game in a way should live up to that down in Jacksonville, where we say a close contest between the Bulldogs and the Gators. So Dontron, great question, great question, and definitely we'll be looking forward to talking more about that in the following weeks. All right, and again, guys, the number is down there scrolling across the bottom. It's up there already next to our social media platforms, 901-297-4545. You can call in at any time, and we will put you on the line. Again, we'll limit you time-wise so we can get through as many calls as possible, but we do want to hear from you and your thoughts. Keto, my thoughts on predictions in 2020. I feel people's Pac-12, Big Ten predictions will be terribly wrong because of the limited number of games and COVID affecting the games. Yeah, I mean, I think you meant to say 2021 there. Predictions obviously are a huge part of what we do here, and this last summer was such a pain. It was such a pain, grueling task to predict every game because we didn't know. The unknown was scary, and it was scary in the middle of the season. We'd line up to do our top 5 games, our game of the weeks, and we would line up to do that. And after we filmed, and after we edited, sometimes after we posted, the game would get canceled due to COVID. So, yeah, Pac-12 Big Ten predictions will be terribly wrong. I fully agree because things are going to get affected. And the way they handled it last year, this last season, screwed everybody up. So, I get what you're saying too in the sense of limited amount of exposure. For SEC and for Big 12, some of these guys that we saw play 10, 11, 12 games over the course of a year, we have more of a sample size of what to go off of going into this upcoming season. We can say, hey, we watched these guys play 12 games, and if you look, yeah, they went 6-6, but 2 of those games were decided by one possession. We got to see this quarterback get to play a full slate of games, whereas the Pac-12, maybe they only got to play 5 or 6 games, maybe less than that. And so you have a smaller sample size. These players didn't get as much experience in 2020 as they should have, and that's going to hurt some people, I think, going into 2021. I really do. So that's an excellent point. Excellent point, Keto, and I am a little worried about it. I genuinely am, but not just with our predictions, but for the performance for some of these teams here, because yeah, you get the opportunity for these seniors to come back. You've got a lot of people that are going to come back because they got slighted big time from this last season. But is it going to matter? Will 2021, here's what I like to say, will 2021 be what the 2020 season should have been for some teams, if that makes sense? If 2020 was supposed to be a rebuilding year for a given Pac-12 team, and they didn't get to do much work, well, will 2021, hopefully being a full year, will that replace that rebuild year? That makes sense. Got a lot of prep time in there, but we all know it's a lot different when you're actually getting to hit somebody else than hitting yourself. Scott Bankale, let's see, what's Scott saying about the Big 12 commissioner? No teams opting out of the men's basketball conference tournament, which I think is crazy. Baylor could opt out after this mess is fixed. Fingers crossed, Scott. Genuinely, I am nervous about the postseason for college basketball. I was devastated, as I know many of you were, when the tournaments were canceled last year. Some teams were walking out on the court ready to play, and they said, hey, go home. SEC tournament's canceled. Big 12 tournament's canceled. And then, of course, the big dance was canceled. That was the heartbreaker. I mean, you talk about a shot to the heart. Not getting to see March Madness, it killed me. So I don't know. I don't know how things are going to work with individual conferences and conference tournaments. I think you can make a case for the problem with the NCAA is it would be wrong to say, hey, we're only going to take the top 5 teams or top 6 teams from a given conference, because the beauty of March Madness and the beauty of conference tournaments is usually every team makes it. And when every team makes it, you could have, no offense to my man Mitch, but Iowa State, who is arguably the worst team in the Big 12 right now, either them or Kansas State, they could win the Big 12 tournament and go to the NCAA tournament. And it would be wrong to a team like that to say, hey, you can't go, but Baylor, Texas, Oklahoma, they get to go, because you never know. You never know what upsets can happen. So that's the decision that the commissioners across the country are going to have to make going forward. EJ, what's going on? Go Irish, Notre Dame. Good to see you. Robert, yes, you're able to call. go ahead and give us a call, Robert, if you haven't already. Again, for anybody, give us a call at 901-297-4545, right up there on your screen. We've got our phone right here, ready to go, answer any college football questions, or NFL questions for that matter, that you have. And again, we are anxious to get on the line here next 45 minutes to an hour just to talk college football. And that's why we're here every Monday again, 8 p.m. Central Time. Michigan State, #1 fan. I love it. I love the name, and I love the questions. I just need to study Michigan State nonstop so I can give you some of the best answers. But who do I think will win the Michigan at Michigan State game? And yes, I do remember the last play of 2015. I do remember that. And I'll never forget where I was for that. It's one of those moments, one of those games where you look back and you say, man, you know, it's one of those like crazy moments in history. And you remember exactly where you were. You remember exactly what you were doing. And I wasn't doing anything exciting. I was actually at a family member's house, was out of town. I was alone. That was the crazy thing. One of the craziest moments in football history, and I watched it by myself. So I was screaming, and there was no one there to... I didn't have any investment, but I didn't have anyone to cheer with, which is crazy. But I do remember the last play of that game. This year, it's too early to call who's going to win the game in 2021. Home field advantage. Hopefully we're going to have fans everywhere. My inclination is Michigan State. My inclination is Michigan State. They could do it last year. They can do it again, especially at home. But I am very, very interested. Michigan's that kind of anomaly. They are the team that I'm really interested to watch this year, along with a handful of others. But one that I'm really interested to watch because what are they going to bring to the table in 21? They just signed Harbaugh to a lengthy extension for being mediocre at best. So is Michigan going to continue to put up with that? I mean, Harbaugh needs a big year, and he needs it soon. And he needs a big year where he's beating quality opponents and beating his rivals. Yet to beat Ohio State. That's got to change. He needs to have a better record against Michigan State. That's got to change. I mean, those are probably the two games that Michigan fans care the most about and feel the strongest about. Ohio State, of course, being #1. He's got to find a way to get those wins. And if he doesn't, who cares? Why are we still here? Why are we playing? But yes, I'm going to go Michigan State right now. That could change, so don't hold me to that. But Michigan State right now. And I don't know if we're ever going to see a finish like we did back in 2015. Sam, Georgia's DM, what's going on? It's good to see you, my man. Good to see you. We're doing a call-in show tonight, Sam. If you want to call in, feel free. We're limited to about 3-4 minutes so we can get through as many calls as possible and get through as many questions in the chat as possible. So we'll just take a question or two and move on. But good to see you. Glad you're here. Glad to see that Georgia basketball team slowly turning things around right now as we near the end of the year. Scott, what teams do I think will take a step forward and a step back? That's a good question. I love these. You know, surprise teams, disappointing teams, teams that are going to really shoot up and regress. I saw a lot of teams, Scott, in 2020 that took a step forward that I didn't think would. You could talk Arkansas, you could talk Rutgers. And I know that neither of those teams were elite, but they exceeded expectations in year one under their respective coaches. I will say that I think BYU is a team that will regress. I think BYU is a team that will take a step back, lose a lot of talent, including Zach Wilson, who very well could be the #2 pick in the draft here in a few months. I don't think you're going to see BYU go 11-1 and dominating every single opponent like they did this year, especially if they get to play the opponents they're supposed to in the non-conference. Or we know they're an independent, but you know what I mean. A full 12-game schedule where they don't have to stick within a certain region and play FCS opponents and, Mountain West opponents, inferior Mountain West opponents. So BYU is a team that I think can and probably will take a step back. I look as well at LSU. I think that's a team that can take a step forward. Another 1 year removed from a national championship. That's not that big a deal. But I do think that they will take a step up. That they can kind of start to challenge in the SEC West again. Again, Alabama's a shoe-in for me right now, but I don't see LSU going 5-5 again. So I think they're a team that could take a step forward. I think Texas is a team that can surprise a lot of people. Year one under Steve Sarkisian. I think you need to watch out for him. I'm serious, guys. I don't like to say Texas is back. I don't think I've ever said Texas is back, but I do think they're on the right track. They are heading in that right direction. Need to watch out. Need to watch out for the Longhorns and Steve Sarkisian. I think Vanderbilt's a team that's going to win a few games. I mean, I can go through a list of brand new coaches, and we're doing that right now with our coaching changes, kind of what to expect, who's going to exceed expectations, who's going to live up to the expectations, who's going to regress, and that's just brand new head coaches. That's actually a good video, Scott. We'll actually get one of those out relatively soon for you to do that, because that's a great topic. But I think there's a handful out there for sure. Robert, you've got to call us, my man. You've got to call us. We don't call you. You call us. If you want to call, the number's right there on your screen, 901-297-4545. You can give us a call. We don't have your number. We don't have your number, so we can't do that. But feel free to give us a call. And Sam, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the Super Chat donation. Again, it means the world. You're killing it. Guys, Sam over there, if you don't follow him already, All College Football on Instagram, along with a bunch of million other pages on Instagram now. All College Basketball, All College Baseball, Epic College Football. We got so many pages out there, Sam does, and it's unreal. I mean, some of the most elite coverage I can honestly say for college sports. So I really, really appreciate that. And do I think the Dogs can take down Tennessee in hoops? Tennessee just lost to Ole Miss. So, yeah, I really do. Georgia's getting hot at the right time. We're getting a call from Georgia. Let's get a call. Is this Robert?
Hello.
Hey, Robert. How you doing?
I'm pretty good. What about you?
I'm doing good, Robert. I appreciate you for calling in, man.
Alright, so I'm a Georgia fan, and I don't know what's going to be going on with Georgia this year with, who's going to...
I think we lost Robert. I don't know what happened there. Robert, we seem to have lost you, man. If you give us a call back. I'm not quite sure what happened. Lost service or something. Robert, sorry about that. Give us a call back if you're still listening. I know we were about to talk some Georgia football. Georgia's definitely taking over. Grayson, good to see you, my man. Hey, homework's important. I should be doing mine right now, and I'm not. I'd much rather be doing this. But hit the books. Use this as some background noise. Take a little study break every now and then. But good to see you. Good to see you, Grayson. Zane Reese, Mackenzie Milton should be on the cover of the new NCAA game. Comeback to one of the best feel-good moments in college football history. I would fully agree with that. Fortunately, he's not going to grace that cover. I wish he would. Kind of reminds me of an Alex Smith situation out in the NFL. And guys, those injuries are so eerily similar. I mean, both were told they might have to get their leg amputated, might never walk again, certainly never play football again. And yet both Alex Smith, who just won Comeback Player of the Year in the NFL, and of course Mackenzie Milton, unbelievable comebacks. Unbelievable comebacks. And the fight within both those guys is just ridiculous. So I would love to see him on the cover, but more than anything, Zane, I just love to see him succeed at Florida State. I would love to see, I think he's a great quarterback for Mike Norvell's system down there. We know Florida State needs a good quarterback to fix some things. So I would love just to see him, come back, get the starting job at Florida State, do well. I mean, I'm not saying he's got to lead him to a natty. I'm not saying he has to lead him to an ACC title. But get Florida State back on track. If Mackenzie Milton comes back and in 1-2 years stabilizes that Florida State program along with Mike Norvell, he's done his job. And he's completed one of the greatest comebacks in football history. And I'd love to see him get a decent career in the NFL if he can, because he's very talented. I mean, that guy was elite. Well, I really genuinely believe that one of the best in the country when he was fully healthy at UCF. So I hope he can return to form and get going from there. Burger Smooth Highlights, who has been, I didn't know he was going to do this. He told me he was going to do it, but I didn't know what it meant. Been going through each individual video on the Gridiron Expert and finding the best moments, I guess. Best predictions, best analysis, and he's like put the little timestamps in the comments. I love it. It's actually, I've actually gone back and watched some of them because I don't even remember exactly who I picked or what I said in week 5 of this past season. I don't even remember all the stuff that went down, so I appreciate that. Any thoughts on Oregon football this upcoming year? And the quarterback battle between Shuck and Brown. Look, I think we're getting a call from Iowa. I'm going to get him on hold. And Burger Smooth, I'm not going to forget your question. From Mitch. Hey, Mitch, let me put you on hold for 1 second, my man.
Okay.
So we got Mitch on the line. I want to touch on Shuck and Brown real quick. I don't think there's much of a battle there. I really don't. If you watched Oregon this year, obviously they won the Pac-12, made the Fiesta Bowl where they got annihilated by Iowa State. But I don't think there's much of a battle there. I thought Joe Moorhead, the new offensive coordinator, did a great job of utilizing Brown's dual threat ability and almost using that dual threat ability as a decoy because he put him in at times and he'd throw a couple of touchdowns. So he would trick the defense there, but it was Shuck's job, and it's Shuck's job to lose. He had that job the entire way through. He was no Justin Herbert, and I don't think anybody expected him to be. But I think it's his job, and then Brown is just kind of there to use sparingly. But I don't think there's much of a battle going on there. I think he's kind of to me, he kind of reminds me of a Taysom Hill type guy back at, now with the New Orleans Saints. They'll plug him in when needed, use him as a decoy, use him for real. But I don't think there's any competition as to who's actually going to be under center for the entirety of the season. I think that's certainly going to go to Tyler. All right, we got Mitch on the line here, and let's talk to him for a little bit before we get back to the chat. What's going on, Mitch?
Nothing much. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to hear you. Glad to have you here. And how's things been going?
Pretty good. Just getting those piles of Spanish homework.
Yeah, man. What are you in? Spanish 3? Spanish 4?
Yeah, I'm in Spanish 2 right now.
Oh, Spanish 2? Yeah, I think I took 2 years of Spanish and then dropped out, man. I was done with that.
I'm doing it the exact same reason as you. Just get that shit done and over with so you can get into college.
Fine, whatever. You gotta get the requirements, man. Just get the bare minimum to get in.
Yeah.
I feel that. So what's going on, man? What are we talking about?
Talking about Iowa State 2021 season. I think we're going to be a top 10 team. We're a lock for a top 10 team. I think our offense should be explosive. No excuses for this year for our offense. Absolutely none. Except maybe at the wide receiver position. Don't have a lot of depth there, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And the wide receiver position was actually a concern of mine going into this last season, and they kind of exceeded my expectations, I'd say. So hopefully they can do that again going into 21.
Yeah, our defense. The only thing that scares me is really our defensive line. We don't have that much depth there, but we do have the returning nation's leader in sacks, Will McDonald. He's an underrated player. Don't know why anybody's talking about him. He's a really good pass rusher. Draws lots of penalties. Really, really good.
Well, yeah. You got him stacked up. You've got a good majority of your defense coming back. I know you lose a few key starters, especially up front, but people have been posting. And I know you've seen it. Instagram, Twitter, whatever, Iowa State as a potential playoff dark horse, and all the comments are, that's preposterous, there's no way, it's impossible, and I don't understand how anybody thinks that's far-fetched, because you look at Iowa State, their toughest game is going to be Oklahoma on the road, and as I think I told you or somebody else, there's a very good chance Iowa State could run the table in the Big 12 with the exception of that game, have a rematch in the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma, and if they win that as a one-loss team, they are absolutely in the college football playoff.
Oh, for sure. I think this year is obviously the year to do it. I like our schedule a lot. So first game, obviously at home, and then second game, Cy-Hawk, and then third game, we actually go out to Vegas to play UNLV in the new Raiders Stadium. So I like that third-game stretch for us.
Yeah, and I think that's a good 3-game stretch, I think, to open up and going into conference play. I think you're going to take relatively easy care of UNLV, but that's going to be one heck of a trip and just environment to be in. But Iowa, of course, going to be I'd say the toughest in that stretch, and I personally believe you're going to take down Iowa this year, if I'm being completely honest.
Oh, yeah, I think so, too, Their D-line, front seven, isn't nothing too special. I think our offense should run over them, and then our defense obviously has been containing them well over the last 2 years. the exception of 2016, 2017. Our defense has been locking down on their old school, pound and run style of offense that you just don't see nowadays, except in the Big Ten West with like Wisconsin and Iowa.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. And, I think the last point I'll make on Iowa State here, and as you say, and the offense, for me, got better over time, I thought, this season alone. I think Breece Hall obviously was a major, this was a major reason for that, and he surprised a lot of people by coming back. You talk about McDonald on defense not getting enough attention. I think it's Hall on offense that hasn't gotten the respect that he deserves at all. I mean, this guy was carrying Iowa State on his back over really the entire season. No one talked about him because guys like Najee Harris and Travis Etienne got all the attention. But not only is Iowa State, Big 12 title contender and one of the favorites and a playoff dark horse, but I put Breece Hall up there as a Heisman favorite or dark horse if you want to call him that too. But I consider him a favorite in 2021. Yeah.
Oh, for sure, and definitely when all of your offensive lines coming back, and our left guard, he was predicted to go second round in the NFL draft before he got hurt, season-ending injury versus Louisiana Lafayette. So he's going to be back. Our guards are amazing. Our tackles could use some work, but our interior offensive line is really, really good. When we do run inside zone, ISOs, all those other packages with Breece Hall in the run game.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's going to be, I think, Matt Campbell, who, as you know, and everybody else, I'm sure, just signed a very lengthy extension, 8 years, I think it was, which was
2028.
Yeah, which is fantastic and very well deserved. I mean, Iowa State's inking him up and making sure he doesn't go off anywhere to, potential Michigan or another potential Power 5 school out there. And, he's made it very clear he wants to stay and wants to win, is happy in Ames, and I don't blame him. I mean, why not? I mean, this, Iowa State, to me, is a, when you look at the history of their program, they were at first, just be happy to make bowl games consistently. And he has, raised that level of expectation. It's like, yeah, we're going to make bowl games consistently, but we don't want to settle for 6-6, 7-5. It's Big 12 title or bust type of expectations around here. And he's made those expectations or reaching those expectations. I'd say the last 2 years they've done that, and it seems to be the way they're going forward. So I'm very, very excited about the future down at Ames. I know you are, and I really think 2021 is a very special year. I'm thinking, honestly, off the top of my head, and again, don't hold me to it, but 10-2 at the worst right now for the Clones.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, I mentioned that our schedule lines up pretty perfectly. Going to Norman, I think that will be tough, but I like our chances there, to be honest. I mean, Oklahoma, their defense is good, but I don't know if they'll be good again on defense, but we'll see. I mean, they did shut down our run game. Our offensive line was kind of sloppy, but I think we can hang with Oklahoma for sure.
No, I genuinely do. I mean, y'all have done that every single year, or for the most part under Campbell. You've hung with or defeated Oklahoma. I think every meeting, for the most part, last 5 or so, has been decided by 10 points or less. And with the expectations for both teams this year, I wouldn't expect that to be any different in 21. So, and you've won in Norman before. That's the thing. It's not impossible to win there. You've done it before, and I have no doubt that y'all can do it again.
Yeah, and my last question is, when do you think the NCAA video game will return?
I've heard 2023. I've heard they're going to come back in 2023, which is going to give everybody a lot of time to settle these player rights and potentially paying collegiate athletes and things like that. So I know for a fact it's not going to be this year. I wish it would be, but I'm hearing 23 at the earliest, maybe summer of 23. Honestly, we've waited what, that'd be 10 years at that point. So we can wait. We've waited 8 years. We can do 2 more.
Yeah.
But I'm psyched about it. I think everybody's super excited about it, and I still play 14 on my PlayStation 3, so getting it for a PS5, if I can ever get one of those things, it's going to be pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, Mitch, hey, man, I appreciate you calling in. We're going to see if we can get a couple other guys on the line, and we'll definitely talk soon.
All right, see you.
All right, man, have a good night. All right, that was Mitch all the way down, or up, I guess I should say, from my location in Iowa. If you're a regular here on the channel, you know he is also a regular here on the channel and a diehard Iowa State fan. And I'm telling you, people thought I was crazy last year when I said Iowa State was going 8-2 and making the Big 12 championship. Said I was a madman. And look what happened. 8-2, made the Big 12 championship. The only thing we missed out on was the fact that they just didn't win it. They were a couple plays away from actually winning it and nailing that prediction. So, moral of the story is, we're going to pick Iowa State to do very well in 2021. Don't know exactly how it's going to line up yet, but they're going to be really good, and we're going to pick them to do very well. And it's going to happen. The Clones are for real. They're legit. All right, let's go through the rest of the chat here. And again, we've got the call in for another, 25, 30 minutes. The line's going to be open. So again, 901-297-4545 right up there on your screen. Give us a call. Robert, if you're still with us, hook us up, man. I apologize. Something got disconnected either on my end or your end earlier on your call. So if you want to give us another call, try again, please do. Let's see where we are here. Sam, Georgia's DM, go Dogs, baby. He is expanding across the board. As he said, he's taking over. Again, you want any sort of collegiate athletic news, not just football, he's going to be your man. So go drop him a follow. We've actually got his stuff down in our description, so give that a look. Good friend of mine, great guy to work with, and he's absolutely killing it. Absolutely killing it. I think we're getting our call back from Robert, so guys in the chat, hang with us. We're going to be back. Let's take this, and now it's gone. We had him. I thought we had him. It was coming in, and then he hung up. Keto, early prediction on Washington at Michigan. I am very excited about that game, as I know you are. I wish this game had been played in Seattle last year, and I wish for some of these teams, I wish we could go back to the the normal schedule. I feel it's wrong for Washington to not get to host Michigan. You know what I'm saying? I know COVID ruined that for a lot of people, but I feel it's wrong that Oregon doesn't get to host Ohio State. I mean, that was going to be huge. Those are monumental games for these programs, and they're not getting that exposure. They're not getting those opportunities. Those fans aren't getting those opportunities because of the virus. I think there should be some way where we change that up, but schedules are made so far in advance, it's just a pain in the butt to try to reorganize them and reschedule, so oh well. I rambled. Early prediction for Washington, Michigan. My early thought's going to be Washington. And I'm not just saying that because you're a Washington fan. Again, it could change. I really study up in the summer. I study up Washington. I study up Michigan. I go, all right, Wolverine's got this. Fans will play a factor. That's what, the season opener or somewhere early on in the season. If we can have fans in a big house, that game has the potential to be sold out. Might have to go Michigan in that scenario. But if it's not, Washington played a lot better football in 2020 than I thought they would with the Jimmy Lake transition. So, having said that, they're one of those teams that we mentioned and we talked about earlier with the Pac-12 they didn't play a lot of games. They should have gone to the Pac-12 championship, but couldn't because of their COVID issues. They're a team that carries a lot of momentum into this season and exceeded expectations in 2020 despite only playing 3-4 games. They're young. They've got a couple games under their belt. I actually think that might be better for this team because they got that in-game exposure. They showed what they could do. Now they're going to get an entire offseason under now a second-year head coach to continue to build that chemistry and to implement their style. And now they're going to go to a Michigan team that it was garbage last year and will probably remain garbage until they can start landing some better recruits and start developing an offense. The quarterback question's still all over the place. Might have to go Washington. Right now, might have to go Washington. And I figured you'd probably like that answer. Monster Jam. Hope Cincinnati can beat Notre Dame next year. It can show how good the AAC is. Absolutely. Any opportunity for a group of 5 school to defeat a Power 5 school, regardless of who it is an opportunity to, excel the group of 5 status. A lot of people still don't view it as elite football, and it is. Sunbelt proved that this year with Coastal Carolina and Louisiana. App State's done it in the past. The American Athletic, very elite. UAB has surprised in the Conference USA. Handful of teams out there, guys, across the board that are showing promise, showing a lot of promise. And Cincinnati is certainly right now the best group of 5 team there is. They were last year, they are this year. Not only do they play Notre Dame, they also play Indiana. I'm telling you, if Cincinnati can just split those, if Cincinnati can just split, win against Notre Dame and lose against Indiana or vice versa, go 11-1, which means they'll sweep American Athletic Conference play, which is not easy, they are playoff contenders. Because Notre Dame and Indiana, when Cincinnati plays them, they will probably both be a top 10 team. And I am saying that about Indiana. They're going to be dang good. They exceeded expectations. They're a team that's still, I think, trending up. They weren't a one-hit wonder. Cincinnati beats just one of them, 11-1. Wins the American. They deserve serious consideration for the college football playoff. I don't know what the other teams are going to look like, but they deserve serious consideration. And if they don't, then we've got a riot. We've got a riot. We've got to take down the college football playoff committee because it's getting old. And it's getting old really quick. Been doing this stuff for, 7 years now? And no one seems to ever be, willing to give teams a fair chance. And it's getting old. All right. Let's take a look at the rest here. Sports Ball Talk. Hello. I'll have to go give that channel a look at some point. Hello with the exclamation point at the beginning of the word. That was nice. But I will give that channel a look. That just sounds intriguing. Burger Smooth Highlights. Yes, sir. Hey, man, I appreciate you not just working on that video and not just, I appreciate everything you're doing. I appreciate the question. I appreciate the support. And you willing just to make that video? I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome, man. So thank you so much. I look forward to seeing it. I really do. Hell, we might even throw it up here on our channel at some point. Creds, all credit, of course, to you. So I appreciate that and appreciate all the support. Michigan State, #1 fan. Will Michigan State take a step forward or take a step back? Assuming we get to play a full 12-game season, I would say to step forward. I think they're a borderline bowl-eligible team. Georgia Sam, I couldn't do Spanish. You took Latin instead. I was the exact opposite. No way I could take Latin. I was going to take Spanish instead. So I heard the fine line. The easiest, of course, would be French. That's what I heard, but I don't know about that. I only know a few words out there. Bonjour, merci, stuff like that. Grayson, Gonzaga upset tonight? Probably not. Scott says maybe. BYU. Only 2 teams within that conference can take down Gonzaga, and it's BYU and St. Mary's, but I think the Bulldogs are just on a completely different level in 2020 and 2021. Again, scrolling through the chat here. Playglow Productions. Glad to have you here. So happy to hear you're a big fan. Ironically, I'm a big fan of yours. I'm a very big fan of yours, and I can't wait for another Siren Head video. Really looking forward to that. Brennan Conway, will Cincinnati and Central Florida get a Power 5 invite at some point? It's a good question, Brennan, and we're going to, over the summer, over the next few months, we've got a lot of videos lined up, and one of those videos and one of those series is conference realignment. We're going to kind of go through and realign. Maybe we make 5 power conferences, and that'll include pulling from the group of 5 for that. I don't know what it's going to be. But the only place, Brennan, that Cincinnati and Central Florida can get into right now is probably the Big 12. That's the only place that makes logical sense when you really think about it. The SEC is very stingy as it is. Their divisions, 7 each, 14 teams. Pride themselves on being the best conference in the country, and do we really think that for a full 8 games could Cincinnati and Central Florida contend in the SEC? Probably not. 1 game a year, 2 games a year, maybe, but week in and week out competing in, you would probably have to put Cincinnati in the West and Central Florida in the East. That would just make the most sense. Do we really think they could contend year in and year out? Probably not. So SEC, no. Big Ten. Wouldn't make sense to put Central Florida in the Big Ten. You can make a case for Central Florida in the Big 12, and they would say, well, why Florida? Well, why West Virginia? How far east are you willing to go? How far south are you willing to go? Central Florida could work in the Big 12 and would fit that style of the Big 12 too. For a while, I just don't see it happening. For a while, I just genuinely don't see either getting a Power 5 invite. What we need to focus on for the group of 5, what we need to focus on for those teams is getting them a playoff spot, getting them the respect they deserve. I used to kind of not frown upon the group of 5, but a lot of people look at them and say they're not Power 5 level. They can't beat the SEC. They can't beat the Big Ten. Every now and then, a blind squirrel finds a nut and they're able to win. But, I mean, consistently, no. Well, they've started to do that now. The American Athletic has started to do that, and they've started to do it on the biggest stages. The Sun Belt is doing it. The Conference USA is doing it. The Mountain West is doing it. These teams are elite. They are, whether you like it or not. And the playoff committee and sometimes the AP poll frowns upon them. They say, strength of schedule is not good enough. Or they play the hypothetical. Hypothetically, Cincinnati probably couldn't have hung with Alabama or Notre Dame this year, so we're not going to give them their shot. You can't rank teams based on hypothetical. You rank them on what's happened. And they didn't do that this year. So I think before we start talking about Power 5 invites, and I think Big 12 would be most logical for both, we need to focus on getting them the respect they need, because getting to a Power 5 conference would be giving them a lot of respect. Grayson, how am I picking Baylor this season? It's still early. I'll probably have them in a bowl game. As Scott is saying, and he, like I said, the walking, talking Baylor encyclopedia, lives and breathes Baylor, and I absolutely love it. I learn more from Scott sometimes than I do from just my own research. But Scott's saying 4-8, 5-7 worst case. 8-4 would be very good. 7-5 would be very good. I think, kind of like I said with Michigan State earlier, they're a borderline bowl-eligible team. The talent is there. Quarterback, going to be very interesting. Brewer's gone, off to Utah. So how does Dave Aranda handle the quarterback situation, and can the defense start to turn things around as well? Offensive line, Baylor was not necessarily bad per se in 2020. We knew they were going to take a step back. There was no way they were going to go 11-3 like they did with Matt Rule. But they had a lot of things that were just inconsistent. Some days they'd play really well, fall just short. Sometimes they'd play horrible, and you'd wonder where was the team. So Baylor, borderline bowl eligible for me. 5-7, 6-6, somewhere around there. Still early though. Will Lou, all the way up from Rutgers. What's going on, my man? You're like a freaking meme master, man. I follow you on Instagram, and I love seeing the memes you post on your story. And obviously the love and the support for Rutgers as well. Happy to see them stringing a couple wins together in Big Ten play, and I hope they're able to slip into the big dance. So good to see you, Will, and I'm really looking forward to year 2 under Schiano. Johnny D, FCS going to be awesome this spring. Montana State are out, though. That is unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate. And FCS football, guys, is something that we are going to touch on this year. Normally we don't do that because FCS season is always going on during the normal season. Well, now we're lucky, guys. If you thought football season was over, think again. Super Bowl's over. Football's over. Think again. We've got FCS football starting this Saturday. And it's not, it's no Alabama, Clemson. I know that. But we've got Tarleton State, McNeese State kicking off on Saturday. Tarleton State making their debut at the FCS level, making their debut at the Division I level. So that's pretty historic in and of itself. And then after that, every weekend, we're going to have FCS games. We're going to have college football through, I think, May 15th. You're going to see your Powers, your North Dakota States, your James Madisons, your Weber States, Central Arkansas, Eastern Washington, guys like that. Yes, there are a handful of teams that are choosing to opt out amid COVID concerns. The entire Ivy League is not even playing this year, but we are going to have college football. We're going to see a 16-team playoff within the FCS beginning in April. It's going to be an exciting time. It's going to be very, very exciting. So we're going to have an FCS preview coming out later this week. I think on Thursday it will be. And then after that, we will have a game or games of the week every single week for the FCS. Let's give those teams some exposure, give them the respect that they deserve, and talk some legitimate college football to help us get through this offseason. I'm really, really excited about that. So, Johnny, excellent point. Eddie Rose, good to see you. Missouri and Arkansas will be really fun. Yeah, Missouri, Arkansas, they're rivals. But with Missouri beating Arkansas in a series of close games for a while now, go back to 2016. Arkansas blows a 24-point lead. Missouri wins. 2017, Missouri wins on a game-winning field goal. I believe his time expired, or very close to it. Ends up resulting in the firing of Brett Bielema. 2019, relatively close, down in Little Rock. Last year, a wild game, 50-48, I believe it was, between Missouri and Arkansas. So we've seen some classics and some close ones. Every time we have a close game between the Tigers and the Razorbacks, that rivalry gets stronger and stronger. And the fans that are saying, oh, we don't care, it's not a real rivalry, their minds begin to change every time it's closer. And I think right now, Arkansas feels that way more than Missouri. But yes, absolutely, it's going to be a lot of fun as long as Eli and Sam Pittman are there. Eli more of a trash talker than Sam, but Sam a good boy, man. Sam's a good guy, and he's going to have his Hogs ready to go when they face off in Fayetteville, I believe, in 2021. Jonathan Liu, are we seeing the fall of Penn State? I don't think so. That's another one, Scott, that I will say. Another one I will say is a team that's going to shoot back up is Penn State. I think they're due for a bounce-back year. Again, we mentioned that last live stream. They were a team that just collapsed after their start to the season. Devastating way to lose to Indiana. Got caught looking ahead to Ohio State. They knew the game against Ohio State lost its luster, wasn't as big of a deal. So they I think Penn State gave up. I think they really gave up. As soon as they lost to Indiana, they realized our season's over. And I think they're a team that's going to bounce back. So Jonathan, no, I don't think we're seeing the fall of Penn State. If they have another year in 21 like they did last year, then I could start to argue that. Sports Ball Talk, good to see you, and goodbye. We'll go drop you a follow here soon. Robert Sharpton, sorry we couldn't get to you today, man. I'm sorry about that, but question. Quarterback thing. Why not win the SEC East with Georgia? Look, JT Daniels is a fantastic quarterback. They're my pick to win the East right now. We talked to Don Tron earlier, and I told him that. I said that I believe that Georgia is the favorite in the East. They are my favorite in the East solely because of JT Daniels and the talent coming back for Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs. They need to break through. They need to fight. They need to get back, win the East now, and they need to win a national championship for the first time since 1980. They're well past time. We're getting a call. Might be Robert. We're going to take it, wrap up the chat, and we'll call tonight. Maybe not. Let's see who we got. All right, you are on the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have with us?
You have Grayson here.
Hey, what's up, Grayson? How's it going?
Good. I don't have much time. I'm doing homework, but I just wanted to ask you a quick question while I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
What's your partake on March Madness this year? Like, I know that's not really football related, but like, what's your partake? Like, do you think it's gonna happen? Do you think it's gonna go smoothly, or do you think we're gonna have a lot of teams opting out? Like, what's your forte, so to speak, on March Madness this year?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I really do think we're gonna have it, Grayson. I really do. You know, last year when COVID hit right around the time of March Madness, no one knew how to plan for it. Well, now we've had, since they canceled those conference tournaments and since they canceled the tournament almost a year ago, they've had a year to plan on how they would arrange it for 2021. And, you know, as you know, they're doing that by having it in the Indianapolis area. They're going to play at Indiana. They're going to play at Butler. They're going to play at the Colt Stadium. They're going to do everything they can to make this happen in a sort of college basketball bubble. So I do think it's going to happen. My only concern, legitimately, Grayson, is what's going to happen, and it's going to happen when we get all these teams in Indianapolis and someone comes down with COVID. Whether that be a number 1 seed or whether that be a 16 seed, someone's going to come down to the point where they can't play their tournament game, and then what do they do?
Here's my issue. I know this is going to sound kind of wrong, but it's more important if let's say a number 1 entire team gets sick, that really affects the tournament.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, you get a handful of teams that get sick. Go ahead.
Like, if one team gets sick, it could pretty much impact the entire tournament because it's a chain reaction.
Well, exactly, and that was kind of what I was saying. Is, you know, I know you like Baylor, so let's take Baylor for example. They're going to be a number 1 seed, at least they should be. If Baylor were to go to Indianapolis and get COVID to the point where they couldn't play their game against whatever 16 seed, what do what does the tournament do? Do they say, okay, well, we'll just because it would be you can't say the 16 seed automatically advances because I mean you have to play the game, but more than likely, I mean Baylor we know would beat that 16 seed and should make a run. I think they can make a run all the way to the national championship. So do you?
Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Yeah, it's all right.
But like, what happens if you, let's say, the team gets sick and they can't play that game? What do you do? Do you advance Baylor forward, or do you advance the 16 forward? Because you can't just say Baylor would beat that 16 seed because you don't know. You can't just hypothetical that.
That's kind of what I'm saying is we don't know that. We would assume Baylor would win, but you can't advance them just off of an assumption. So I think the tournament would have to. I personally think you would have to postpone, not the entire tournament, but postpone that game, and that's going to result on them restructuring the layout of the tournament. And I'd like to believe they know that. I'd like to believe, like, hey, all right, the schedule right now has the round of 64 starting on a Friday. Well, let's say the first 32 teams that play on that Friday, if 3 of them can't play or 4 of them can't play, all right, well, let's just push it back a few days. I mean, they have that entire week. The round of 32 will end on a Monday, and the Sweet 16 won't resume until the following Thursday or Friday. You could honestly play games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, keep pushing stuff back, and still give everybody the same amount of prep time. You know what I'm saying? I think we don't have to necessarily stick to the exact schedule like we've been doing for years on end. I think we have to be very flexible.
I just think all the people doing like it's okay if the tournament takes 3 months to complete. Like people just need to have a flexibility factor to realize that teams might get sick, and that should be okay. Because it's, in my opinion, I would rather it go past March and the tournament exceed into April and even May than just advance teams forward that don't deserve to go forward.
And they would never do that. I can assure you. I can't imagine that they would ever advance a team without it being played, especially in a setting like this, and especially if it were an elite team like a Baylor or a Gonzaga. I can't imagine they would just admit a 16 seed to the round of 32 just by default. Because again, it's not Baylor's fault, it's not Gonzaga's fault, it's not any of these teams' fault for getting sick. I mean, we've been dealing with this for again a year now. No team wants it, nobody wants to get it. It just happens, and no one deserves to be punished for that. But yeah, I do think it's going to happen. I do think they're going to find a way to make it happen. Like you said, whether it takes 3 months, whether we can do it under the normal schedule, whatever it takes, I do think it's going to get done because they missed out last year. They missed out on the experience. They missed out on a lot of money. And I don't think the NCAA is going to allow it to happen again this year. So
I had one more quick question for you, if that's all right.
Sure.
How do you think the trade between Stafford and Goff impacts the draft?
I think it drastically impacts the draft. I think, you look at the draft right now, Grayson, we know Trevor Lawrence will go first. Number 2 will be Justin Fields or Zach Wilson. But the fact that the Lions, who were going to go into just complete rebuild mode, and we're going to have, I believe, a top 10 pick, the fact that they now have a capable quarterback who's still relatively young in Jared Goff, there's a chance you could see the Lions trade out of the top 10 and give that spot to someone who is quarterback hungry. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Lions are like 7th or 8th in the draft. And, you could see a team like New England draft up there. We know New England needs a quarterback if they don't get one in free agency. We could see a team like even the Steelers, and we know they're getting near the end. The Saints, now, is Jameis Winston really going to be the man in New Orleans? I mean, it impacts the draft bigger than I think people realize. And the crazy thing is, free agency is not done yet. Carson Wentz is on the market. Jimmy Garoppolo might be on the market. A lot of Deshaun Watson still might need a new home. So
you got Deshaun Watson. If he goes to the Jets, could really affect things.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got guys in the NFL right now, quarterbacks in the NFL right now, that are going to be shipped around within the league, and that's going to affect how teams draft, and that's going to affect the draft order within the next 2 months. So free agency in the next month or so is going to be very, very interesting.
A name, and I want to get your opinion on this, a name that hasn't been really said too much, but I think he's going to impact the game more than people think, is Trey Lance.
Yes,
People aren't talking about him that much, and I honestly don't know why.
This man had literally no interceptions for most of his college career. Threw for like 400 passes, like 400 passing yards a game. Rushed for like 100, and people are sleeping on him. Really?
Yeah, I know if my man DM was here, and I hope he comes back and watches this later, but it's because he's from an FCS. You know, he was a freshman at an FCS program, and most mock drafts have him as a top 15 pick. Might be in the top 10. Some people have him going 15th to New England. I have no doubt he's going to be a first-round pick. But I think, tail the tape. They're focusing more on those Power 5 guys like Wilson and Fields and Mac Jones and guys like that. And, he is under the radar. And I do believe that he's going to be a legitimate starting quarterback, maybe in his first year. And these FCS quarterbacks, guys, they can play. So he's going to impact the draft, and he's going to impact the team. Someone's going to get very lucky for stealing him because he is going to be a steal.
One more thing. Am I the one who feels like Justin Fields is more NFL ready than Trevor Lawrence, or is that just me? I feel like I just feel like Justin Fields, to me, he seems just, I don't know how to explain it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like,
no, I do. I think I would still be going with Trevor Lawrence myself. I mean, in terms of the arm strength and the size and just everything about him, I lean Trevor Lawrence, but Justin Fields is my immediate number 2. I'd be taking Justin Fields over Zach Wilson personally. But he is NFL ready, and I think he showed that in that semifinal against against Clemson. I really do. I think he showed that he was very NFL ready. So,
has there ever been a draft where the top 3 picks have all been quarterbacks?
No, it's a good question. I don't know off the top of my head, and I'm gonna have to go do some research on that. But obviously, we know the first 2 have been quarterbacks, but I'm not too sure about the first 3. But yeah, we'll be doing some research on that for sure.
All right, well, I appreciate your time.
Hey, Grayson, I appreciate it, man. Good luck with the homework, and we'll catch you here real soon, man.
All right, thank you.
You got it, man. All right, that was Grayson, big Baylor fan as well. Him and Scott, like that, man. I'm telling you, when it comes to Baylor, they're the man. But great questions. Grayson bringing up some fantastic points. NFL draft, got to cover that. March Madness, got to cover that. And obviously those are all legitimate questions and concerns. So I loved it. Great discussion. So Grayson, thank you for calling in, man. All right, going to wrap up the chat real quick as we are nearing the end here. Great discussion tonight, everybody. Great. Thank you all for the calls. Thank you all for the chats. Thank you, Sam, Georgia's DM, for the super chat donation. Let's run through the last few comments here. Scott, already got my birthday cake, chocolate icing. Actually, that's my favorite, not going to lie. Then I could have strawberries on top. Birthday is in 6 days. So that's going to be Valentine's Day, the 14th. So, Scott, we will certainly be wishing you a happy birthday on that day. I hope you have a great day. And if I were down there, I'd be asking you to save me a slice because that's absolutely my favorite type of cake. So, happy early birthday, Keto says. Same with Grayson. I genuinely hope you have a great day, man. I hope you have a great day with your family. And as you mentioned, staying as safe as possible. Grayson, yes, like we mentioned, we will be covering March Madness 100%. 100% we'll be covering that. We might have a video out for that, but I'm not really sure how we're going to cover it this year, but we will be touching on it, no doubt about it. Peyton Bragg, what's the right number of college football playoff teams? To me, 6 or 8 is probably the best with no qualifiers. 8 right now. 8 to me is the best. I think 6 teams pushing it. I think 8 is where it needs to be. I don't know about the automatic qualifiers. We kind of already have that right now. If you win the SEC, more than likely you're in. Same with the Big Ten, ACC, guys like that. I do believe we need to have the highest ranked group of 5 champion. I believe that needs to be in. So stuff like that. I think you got 8 teams. I think my structure would be 8 teams. Take your 5 Power 5 champions, ACC, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, Pac-12. Take those. Take your highest ranked group of 5 champion, for example, would have been Cincinnati, and then you got 2 at-larges. That would be like your 5 and 6 in a 4-team playoff. Your 2 at-larges are the 2 best teams that don't fit those other categories that we just mentioned. This year could have been Texas A&M, could have been Oklahoma. Who knows? But that's what they need to do. 8 teams, we need expansion. 6 isn't going to do it. 6 isn't going to please us. 8 is where it needs to be, and it needs to happen now. I promise you, and it could happen now. Our officials are just too lazy to do it. Keto on his way out. Appreciate it, man. Glad you guys enjoy the new graphics. They are great. We love it. I'm pumped. Makes these live streams just that much better. So we are very, very excited about it. Hope you have a great night, Keto. Certainly be talking more very, very soon. Robert, do I think Georgia beats Alabama in the SEC championship? Too early to tell, but until Georgia can actually beat Alabama, I'm going to say no. Going to say very no. And wow, Hunter Fender. Hey, man, I appreciate it, man. Hit me up sometime, for real. I genuinely mean that. Hit me up sometime, Hunter. I appreciate it, man. Look, I didn't create any of this. This wasn't me. I'm just a man in front of a camera talking. But, Hunter, I hope you're doing well, man. Let's get together soon. Give me a call. Give me a text. Shoot me a text. Let's talk. But I hope you're doing well. Hope everything's going well back down there, back down in Little Rock, we'll say. And, yeah, let's get together soon. Let's talk. But I appreciate it, man. Thanks for all the support. And thank everybody else for all the support right now. We're going to wrap things up here at the Gridiron Expert. But it's been a great stream. Again, every Monday night, 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time, right here. Fancy new graphics, but still the same old fantastic college football content, news, analysis, discussion, everything like that. We want to hear from you every single week. So again, thank you all so much for joining us. Grayson, thank you. Dontron, thank you. Robert, Keto, Scott, DM, Cyclone Mitch, everybody else that will soon be watching this video. Thank you all so much. You guys have a great rest of the night, and we will see you next week right here on the Gridiron Expert. Good night, everybody.